So we're going to go ahead and light the candle to set the mood for today's tutorial. Hope you enjoy the beautiful cinnamon and cloves mixture that you'll start seeing appearing in the candle now that it's been lit. So to get started, I want to let you guys know I used the clover amour hooks, and I'm going to be using a 5.5 millimeter hook for this project. And the yarn that I'm using is also a 5-weight yarn, but you can use any yarn that you would like to use for this project to work with a 4-weight yarn. If you want to just put 2 strands together of the 4-weight yarn, it'll work out perfectly. So what you're seeing now is me formulating the magic ring so that we can begin the bottom side of the crochet cozy. You'll want to make sure that you get good at making the magic ring, just because it's so much easier to finish your crochet projects that require a circle to start with. But this is the basic, process for setting up that magic ring so that you can just make it pretty easy. There's definitely more than one way to make a magic ring, so I invite you to watch, any YouTube video out there on magic rings, and it'll sure help you out. So to begin, you're going to want to wrap the tail end of the yarn around 2 fingers, formulating an X. Okay, wrap the tail end of the yarn around your fingers, formulating the X. That'll leave you 2 loops on your fingers. Go under the front loop, over the back loop, pull down, and then you're going to pull up that loop, but face the hook towards you, and then angle the hook upwards so that you can yarn over the loop that's connected to the yarn ball, and then you're just going to pull that loop straight through the loop on your hook, and that's going to create the first chain in which you need to lock the magic ring in place. And now just let your fingers kind of drop out of the magic ring. Holding the magic ring with your other hand, you can kind of pull on the tail end to just secure that knot. And then you can kind of pull the tail out from the magic ring, just letting it hang loose there. And then you will see that you have a perfectly adjustable magic ring. Alright, so now go ahead and chain 1. And then you're going to go ahead and start making half double crochets into the magic ring. We're going to go ahead and insert 12 half double crochets into the ring before closing the magic ring. So to make a half double crochet, if you're not sure how, you would yarn over, insert the hook into the magic ring, yarn over to pull up a loop, yarn over, and then pull through all 3 loops on your hook. That's 2 half double crochets that I've already made. This will be my 3rd one. I'm just pulling that tail out just so that I can kind of adjust the magic ring and make it a little bit easier to manage. You don't have to, but it's just a little bit easier to manage when you do. Yarn over, insert the hook into the magic ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. I have 4 half double crochets on my hook. Yarn over, adjust the magic ring if you need to. So we're going to do that again. Yarn over, insert the hook into the magic ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. You'll continue to do that until you have 12 half double crochets. Okay, and once you get to the point where you have all 12 half double crochets, you'll pull the yarn out just so you can save your place, and then you'll go ahead and count each stitch or each half double crochet just to make sure that you do have 12 that you were hoping to have. The yarn that I'm pulling is the yarn that's normally going to be on the hook, and so you start counting with the first stitch that's coming from that yarn is coming out of. And now we're at the end of the project, counting up. Now that's going to be 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we do have 12 half double crochets in our magic ring. We're going to go ahead and tighten the ring just by pulling on the tail and giving it a good tug just to make sure that the magic ring is completely closed. And then you're going to go ahead and just, continue to tighten if needed, but just make sure not to tear the yarn or anything. And then you're going to go ahead and make sure that you understand that the tail is going to just be kind of left alone there by itself, hanging off below, and you're not going to be using that anymore. So then you're going to make sure that you get the yarn that is considered your working yarn, which is the yarn that's attached to the yarn ball, and that's the yarn that you're going to pull kind of in and out as needed to save your place or start crocheting after you've stopped, that kind of thing. So here I'm showing you on the right hand side of the stitch, that piece of the yarn is going to be taut at all times, and the left hand side you're going to be able to pull up and down as you see fit. So that's how you know that you're going to be stitching correctly during this project. You'll always want the working yarn on the left side and the yarn that's attached to the project on the right side. And I'll be showing you also how to insert the hook now to make sure that you're inserting your hook correctly when you're going to start a project. When you insert the hook, you're going to always want to go from the front to the back rather than from the back to the front. If you go from the back to the front, the right side would be in the front of your hook, and we don't want that. We actually want the working yarn to be in the front side of the hook. The working yarn is the yarn that's going to be going up and down using the crochet hook as well as your finger to manage the tension as you continue to crochet the piece. So you'll see what I'm pointing out there is just that the yarn that's moving is the yarn that's in front. Okay, that's very important so that your project comes out nicely and you're not fighting with your project throughout the project. It's something I learned along the way that I wish I would have learned when I first started. So right here I'm going to be going ahead and adding a slip stitch so that we can close off the round. And you're just going to insert your hook into both the front loop and the back loop of the stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just pull that loop right through the same loop that was on your hook, and that is going to be your slip stitch. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through the loop again, and that's going to be your chain stitch. And you're going to go ahead and just start making half double crochets in every stitch around. For the very first stitch, we're only going to be making one half double crochet into that stitch, but for the remainder of the stitches around, we're going to be inserting 2 half double crochets in each stitch around until the end of the round. And then at the very end of the round, we're going to be inserting one last stitch sort of in the back end of the very first stitch that we created for the half double crochet in that very first stitch that we're working right now. We'll end up putting 2 stitches in there still, but we won't do that until the very end of the round. That action is going to be what's going to keep your seam nice and straight rather than the seam kind of veering off to the right or to the left. I think it usually veers off to the right when you don't do that. So that is another trick that I've learned along the way that I really do appreciate. So again, you'll just put one stitch in that first one half double crochet in that first stitch. In this stitch here, this is the second stitch, and we're going to be putting 2 half double crochet into this second stitch. So go ahead and yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. Do that one more time in the same exact stitch. Yarn over, insert the hook into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. Now we're going to count 1, 2, 3 half double crochets is what we have so far, and we're going to go ahead and go to the next stitch and put the 2 half double crochets into that stitch. So go ahead and yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3, and go ahead and remove any lanitas or anything that you have on your project so far. And then we need to go ahead and put 1 more half double crochet into that same stitch. And you'll just yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. We need to put 2 half double crochet into the next stitch there. So go ahead and yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3, and you'll continue putting 2 half double crochets in every stitch around until you get to the end of the round. I'll go ahead and speed it up a little bit, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Okay, so we've made it to the end of the round. There's 2 more stitches left. We're going to put the 2 half double crochets in this stitch here, and then 1 more set of 2 half double crochets into the last stitch of the round. And then that's at that point, that's when we're going to have run into the very first stitch that we started with, which includes the chain stitch as well as 1 half double crochet. And remember, at the beginning I did tell you we were going to go ahead and meet that stitch, that very first stitch, at the very end, and we're going to put 1 more stitch in there. That way the stitch can actually have 2 half double crochets, just like all of the rest of the stitches. Okay, now go ahead and pull the yarn so you can save your place while you do a stitch count. You're going to want to count 24 stitches all the way around. Alright, so now that the stitch count has been confirmed, you're going to want to start the next round by making sure that you insert your hook correctly from the front to the back. And just make sure you have the working yarn, the yarn that's moving up and down, back and forth, is going to be in the front of your hook. Now go ahead and slip stitch to the very first stitch of the previous round so that you can close the round. It does take a little bit of wiggling sometimes to get into that very first stitch of the previous round. So just kind of wiggle your way in to make sure that you're getting both the front loop and the back loop of the stitch before you pull that loop through. So you can see here I'm getting both the front loop and the back loop. And then you're just going to yarn over, pull the loop through, and just pull it straight through the loop that's on your hook. And then you're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work. You turn the work from left to right just like you would the page of a book. And now we're going to start with the next round, round 3. What you're going to be doing is putting 1 half double crochet in every single stitch all the way around, for a total of 24 half double crochets by the end of each round. You're going to end every single round with a slip stitch and then a chain, and once you chain, you're going to turn the work. Remember to turn the work from left to right, just like the page of a book. Alright, so this first stitch of the next round, you're going to want to make sure not to crochet into the stitch that the chain is coming from. So when you chained your work and then turned, you're not going to stitch into that same chain. You're going to skip that chain that you came from here, that the work is coming out of, and you're going to crochet a half double crochet into the very next stitch. And you're just going to continue with 1 half double crochet all the way around for a total of 24 half double crochet. So go ahead and skip that first stitch and go straight into the next stitch with a half double crochet. You're going to just yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, make sure you get both loops on your hook, yarn over, pull the loop through, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Go ahead and continue adding 1 half double crochet in each stitch around until you get to the end of the round. I'll go ahead and speed it up and I'll meet you at the end. Nice, we've made it to the end of the round. We're going to go ahead and put the last half double crochet in the very first stitch of the previous round, and that's going to take care of that stitch that we skipped when we first started this round. And at the end of the round, you're going to go ahead and close the round with a slip stitch just like we've been doing. After you finish the slip stitch, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. Okay, so we're getting started with round 4 now. You're going to make sure to skip that very first stitch, go to the next stitch, and that's where you're going to place your first half double crochet. You'll continue to place 1 half double crochet in each stitch all the way around. Okay, so skip that first stitch there. Then you're going to go into the second stitch from your hook. You're going to yarn over, insert the hook into that second stitch from the hook, yarn over to pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. You're going to continue to put 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way around. Just be sure to grab the front and back loop of the top of the stitch. It's very easy to mistake the side stitch for the top loops. You're going to have to kind of angle your work a little bit towards you so that you can see the actual top of the stitch. Those are the stitches that you're going to go into. So just be careful that you are selecting both loops of the top of the stitch, not the side of the stitch. Alright, so now that you're nearing the end of the round, I just want you to be sure to place your last half double crochet into that space that you started at, that last space there. It's the space that you slip stitched in on your last round, the prior round. So now go ahead and slip stitch into the first stitch of this past round, round 4, so that you can close this round. And once you complete the slip stitch, you'll be able to start seeing the fact that the bottom half of the crochet cozy has begun to formulate and your side walls are beginning to formulate as well. So we'll continue to move forward with the next round. To do that, you're going to go ahead and chain 1 and then turn your work from left to right, just like the page of a book. And then you're going to want to flip the work kind of inside out as you go, just to make it a little bit easier to get to the stitches that you need to get to. And now you're going to begin with round 5, skipping that very first stitch and going into the second stitch from the hook, placing that half double crochet. You're going to continue to place 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Alright, so we're going to finish up round 5 with the last half double crochet into the very last stitch of the first round. And then we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the first stitch of this past round. And once we do that, that completes round 5, and we'll be able to go right into round 6 by just doing 1 chain stitch. Then we're going to turn our work and flip our work inside out, where it's actually right side out. And we're going to go ahead and begin round 7. We're going to skip that very first stitch like usual, go right into that second stitch there with a half double crochet, and we'll continue to place 1 half double crochet in every stitch all the way around until we get to the end of the round. I'll meet you back up at the end of the round. Alright, so go ahead and place the last half double crochet into the last stitch of round 6, and then you'll slip stitch into that very first stitch of this past round to close up round 6. Then you'll go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work, flip the work inside out so you can begin round 7, and you'll go ahead and continue this pattern all the way through round 11. I'll meet you back at the end of round 11. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of the project. Good for you. So now we're going to go ahead and just place the last 2 half double crochets in the last part of the round there. And we'll go ahead and slip stitch to the very first stitch of that round, just like we've been doing this whole time. And that's going to close round 11 for us. Once you finish that slip stitch, you're just going to pull the string out a pretty good amount. I would say about a roller in size, if not a little bit bigger. That's going to be the end that you're going to be able to weave in, and it's just a lot easier if you have a little bit more yarn to work with. And you'll just cut that yarn right there in the middle there, and then you're just going to kind of tug on the part that's connected to the yarn ball. So the other part is going to end up being your tail end, and this part that's connected to the yarn ball is the one that you'll kind of just pull right out, and that just fastens off the project very nicely. You don't have to worry about it coming undone or anything like that. And then here is the way that the seam looks now. You'll see that the seam is nice and straight. You can also count the peaks and valleys of your project to ensure that you have 5 peaks, 5 valleys. And that's another way just to verify that your project is complete and that you've stitched the correct row count. Okay, and now I'm going to show you how to complete the invisible join. This is the way I do it. There's more than one way to do it. I do like to go ahead and still finish off the round with a slip stitch like usual, and then I just go back in to complete the invisible join. And now I'm just preparing my glue gun to make sure that we're able to go ahead and glue that Feltie right onto the project as soon as we're done with the invisible join. So everything looks good with the glue gun there. The first thing that you're going to do here is just thread your needle so that we can get started with the invisible join. Alright, so now that you've threaded your needle, you're just going to go ahead and put your needle from forward to backward into the stitch that's adjacent to the stitch that the last piece of yarn is coming from. So don't go into that very first stitch that the yarn is coming from. Go to the next stitch and put your needle right in there from front to back underneath both the front loop and the back loop of the stitch. And then you're going to go into the center of the stitch that the yarn was coming from. So into the center of the stitch that the yarn was coming from, and then you'll just kind of point that towards you so that you're coming back out the front end there, which is really the inside, because the part of the project that we're looking at right now is the inside of the project, not the outside. So it's a little bit easier to do the weaving. So once you got your join completed there, you'll be able to kind of see that it's a little bit harder to tell where the round ended. And so that's what makes it special, that invisible join. And from here, you're just going to go ahead and continue weaving in your ends so that you can make sure that the project is nice and sturdy and won't come apart if the customer wants to wash it or if you want to wash it or anything like that. What I like to do is just kind of weave back and forth at least 3 or 4 times, typically about 4 or 5 times. I'll go back in and, in and out, and you just try your best not to go to too many stitches, because then it does kind of bulk up in those areas that you're weaving in back and forth. So just be kind of aware of that part. You kind of want to go throughout a few stitches in a certain area, and don't veer off too far from where you started, just because you don't really want all of the bulkiness to follow along the entire project or anything like that. So you just want to go through about 3 or 4 stitches to weave in the ends there. And you'll also want to weave in the very bottom tail. I did go ahead and weave in the bottom tail when I was in the middle of this project, so it's already done for me. But what I do for the bottom is I just get the end of the tail, and I just follow the circle all the way around, crocheting in around and around the very bottom. That's kind of how I fasten off the bottom. And then at the very end, I go ahead and finish it up with a quick light with a lighter, just to make sure that that very last corner is kind of fastened off and doesn't kind of fray, basically. And here I'm going to go ahead and put a lighter to that very bottom part as well. And then I actually get the lighter and I kind of get it to the whole project, just to take off the fuzzies. You got to be really careful about this part, just to make sure that you don't burn your project. So, I just caution you, it's, not something that you actually have to do or anything. For me, I just like the way it looks afterwards. It looks a little bit shinier and just less fuzzy, so all the fuzzies kind of go away. And different yarn is different with this technique. If you're using like 100% cotton yarn, it doesn't work as well as if you're using like a acrylic yarn or a wool yarn, things like that. So just keep that in mind. I do go over the entire project with the lighter, and then I will, after I finish this side here, which is the inside outside, I'll go ahead and flip it right side out, and then I'll go ahead and complete the same action with the front side of the project as well. All right, you've made it all the way to the end of the project. I hope that you are happy with the project that you've created, and I hope you enjoy, figuring out what you want to put on it. You can put anything from a crochet applique to a Feltie like I put. You can get Felties from Etsy. They pre-make them and sell them, at Etsy. So that's one good way to get them. I actually get them from my mom. She does the embroidery work for me. She has an embroidery machine at home, so I'm lucky for that. And so what I do for the Felties, the only thing I do is basically just hot glue them right onto the crochet piece. I am very careful at hot gluing them, just to make sure I don't make a big giant mess out of the crochet piece itself. I have actually done that before, and it gets very frustrating. So just, if you are going to use the hot glue to glue on your Felties, just be really careful not to get too close to the edges. You can always go back in at the end to touch up the edges if need be, but the glue actually, typically will expand as you press the Feltie onto the crochet piece. So anyhow, I just hope that you guys really enjoyed this crochet project. And if you have any feedback for me, I'd really, really appreciate it. This is my very first crochet tutorial, and I'm really excited just to hear from you guys and see if any of you were able to successfully complete a project. So if you were able to complete your project successfully, Please go ahead and put a picture of your project in the comments. I would just be so thrilled to see that. You would really make my day. Anyhow, thank you again for sticking with me throughout this tutorial. And if you have any questions or anything, definitely post them in the comments. I'll do my absolute best to answer any questions you might have. It's taken me a long time to even learn how to do this, so I know crochet is not easy. It's quite challenging when you very first get started, especially if you don't know anyone who crochets. So I'm definitely here for you, and I've learned a lot from YouTube in general, so there's plenty of other tutorial videos out there on YouTube that you can definitely watch, and I'll be doing my best to continue to make tutorials as well as I continue to grow myself. So thank you again for being here with me. I sure hope you enjoy your cozy and that you have the best day ahead. If you really like the cozies that I'm making and you actually would like to make a purchase from me, I do sell the cozies as well as the candles on my website, inspiringmakes.com. I would be more than glad to assist you with any kind of custom orders as well. If you're interested in a different color on a different Feltie design that I have or anything like that, feel free to just DM me and I'll be glad to get back to you that way as well. Anyhow, I thank you again for being here with me and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everyone. No matter what, don't forget to have fun. On the next tutorial, I hope to show you how I create the vinyl stickers that I put on the lids of every one of my candles. Peace and love, you guys. Thanks again for watching.